Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Ludo, for presenting to the public the documents that thus far has been presented and moving forward. I want to start my comments off. We started our meeting off talking about senior citizens that are being mistreated right now in their living conditions. As I look at this lease, I cannot look at the Bengals lease in an isolated vacuum. I must look at what's the economy looks like, what is the economic climate, and I think one thing I want to make sure that we keep in front of, and we're interchanging language. I think all language should be, this is a negotiation between Bengals ownership and the taxpayers, not the county. We just put county down. It's the taxpayers who have to pay for this. So it's a negotiation between the Bengals ownership, not the team that's running on the field, and the taxpayers of Hamilton County. So I'd like to have that language in there, because we must understand that the only reason that I'm sitting here, we're sitting here, and the lawyers that we hired, only reason we're having this conversation with the Bengals ownership is because we are elected and paid for, all salaries, all contracts, paid for by the taxpayers of Hamilton County. So when you go into a negotiation, you have to decide who is representing who. Our job, and I will say, speaking for myself, what I see, our job and our lawyers' job is to come out with something that's good for our clients, our shareholders, which is the taxpayers. The Bengals ownership, they've hired their lawyers so that they could come back for themselves, and if they have a few investors, to get the best deal, to make the most money for their owners. They're not here for the taxpayers, and us as the taxpayers should not be here trying to accommodate the Bengals. At the end, we want to come out with a win-win, and in the past, we've come out with the Bengals ownership won, but the citizens of Hamilton County, the taxpayers, not county government, the taxpayers, they were the losers. And so far, the Bengals have been undefeated against the taxpayers. With that being said, number one, we're couching this as we're trying to get a deal, a new lease, a new contract. But what I'm seeing on here is an LOI. An LOI. So then you look up, what is LOI? We're doing all this work for an LOI. It says, let's look at the legal bindingness of an LOI, letter of intent. LOIs are generally non-binding, meaning they don't create enforceable obligations on either party. However, certain clauses, like those related to exclusivity or confidentiality and due diligence, may be legal binding in some jurisdictions, but this is in no way a binding lease. So my question today is, are we negotiating a lease? Just like last time, we had an MOU and people got confused in the media. Y'all ran out with a headline, they got a deal. And the MOU specifically said at the end that this is in no way affecting a new lease or affecting the old lease. It was the last paragraph. Y'all all got a copy of it. But we put headlines out that people thought we got a deal. And all we did was add $65 million worth of more obligation to the current lease. This lease is still in effect. It's not an old lease. It's still here until we get a new replacement lease. And what I'm seeing on these papers is that we're looking to get an LOI. So we don't went from MOU, memorandum understanding, to an LOI, letter of intent. Neither one is binding and neither one produces a new lease. So I wanted that as we are being transparent. Number two, I'm reading what the Bengals presented to us, and you guys got a copy you'll be running with. It's interesting. In theirs, they mentioned the city of Cincinnati. I don't know why. Hamilton County, state of Ohio, and the Bengals will affect an agreement with the city of Cincinnati whereby 50% of tax revenues derived by the city from Paycor operations will be used for the stadium maintenance and repairs. This is my first time hearing of this. I didn't know the city was involved. They went on in their proposal, said if Hamilton County provides the above funding for stadium repairs by June 1st, I think we are in June is today the 11th or the 10th, 2025, then the initial term of the Paycor stadium lease shall be extended to June 2031. They had that in there. They also go down here, is interesting, says Hamilton County may secure funding participation from the state of Ohio on the same terms as set forth and above, and then they put in parentheses, 50% minimum county funding. That's interesting. Now, I also, of course, all of us hear about this Bengal lease, and today I got a call. They said, hey, do y'all got a deal or not? You know, that's what they said in 1996, and then the people saw the deal, and it was like, oh my God, somebody's got to get voted out of office. And they did get voted out of office because the people, the taxpayers, the clients, the shareholders were not happy with what came out of it. And they wanted to have some, not just input, some power to hold somebody accountable. And they did. With that being said, they asked me, they said, well, the state, and I want to put this out, well, the state is going with Cleveland because Cleveland is together. Well, that ain't true. The city of Cleveland is in fights with the Haslams, and the Haslams is in fights with the city of Cleveland. And the state of Ohio still is proposing to give them $600 million off the top. What they're proposing for us, so I want to put that out there. They say, oh, they would have gave you more if the county and the Bengals could have got together. The Haslams and the Browns are not getting together with the city of Cleveland, and they got $600 million proposed and going to get it in the budget. So we want to take that off the table. Well, if the county and the Bengals could have got together, they got to. No, the Haslams is running up there without the city of Cleveland. The mayor's mad. They're going back and forth. The county up there is mad. They're going back and forth, but they still put $600 million in the proposed budget off the top. Then they said for Hamilton County, we're willing to possibly put another fund together that every professional group that has a stadium, and probably add in Ohio State, you guys could go and we'll put a team together and you guys go and apply. Well, I've been at the state, not just as a legislator, but I've also been at the state on the administrative side. Once you pass something, I had to write rules and those kind of things. But I just want to put it, it's not the county and the Bengals can't get together, have anything to do with what the state is going to propose because they're fighting up in Cleveland. So I wanted to take that off the table. And what they end up with is whatever they end up with, but the point is they're not stopping Cleveland from being in the proposals, and they're fighting. Number three, let's talk about the rent. So in the proposal, we say we want to get $1 million, and I think it was maybe a couple years, 5 years or so, right? Was it 5 years? How many years?
For who? And who's proposing it?
Their proposal.
Their proposal was $1 million for 5 years. Ours was $1 million throughout the course of the lease.
So they wanted $1 million for 5 years. They have a similar proposal in the current lease, and that's on page 24 of the current lease. They negotiated only 9 years. They always want to put a cap on how many years they want to pay rent. Boy, wouldn't the people that are taxpayers out here that's renting, wouldn't they want to put a cap? I only got to pay rent for 5 years and I get to live free. In here, every year it went down. It started at 1.7 million. Now remember, this is 1997 value. We asking for $1 million now in 2025 dollars value. So really, they kind of put more in before, because $1.7 million was worth a lot more in 1997 than it is in 2005. And then each year they went down. 1.7 million, second year 1.6 million, kept going down, down, down to the ninth year of $900,000. So we want to pay attention to that rent category, but I found it fascinating that they only want to pay in 2025 value $1 million only for 5 years. So I have some concerns about the rent category. The other component that I have concerned about is debt capacity. Okay? We tell everybody we can't do it. We can't do it. We don't want to get a bad this and that. Debt capacity. We're responsible on these leases. We got the Bengals and we still owe debt. It's not paid off. The Bengals Stadium is not paid off. So we still got current debt and then, of course, more debt. We've got the Reds, Great American Ballpark, is not paid off. But we still got them coming up, and they had some new designs they done put out. Also, I want to make sure that we have room for future. We don't want to tie up the future. I'm mad I'm tied up. I wasn't here in 1996 or 1997, and they got my hands tied with a 94%, 6% that I have no say on. So I don't want to tie up the future. There may be something as a county that's futuristic, and we don't want to say that we don't have any money. I don't know if it's arena, it might be something else. But I want to make sure we've got some wiggle room for future potential projects to keep our county current. I like the fact we got to get this maintenance off of us. Can't have an old car with no warranty and the engine go out. Boy, that's the worst thing to get caught with. And we've got an older stadium. Even though we kept the bare bones looking good, and it's going to get older. And every week we're voting on something. We got the water, the field. Every week we got hundreds of thousands of dollars we're voting on. So we don't want to get caught with the maintenance. We want to get that off the taxpayers' backs. I'm not as excited right now because we've gone from MOUs to now LOIs and not a real deal. I don't necessarily think that this is, because what's going to happen is we get an LOI, then we still negotiating. I think we need to get as much specifics as possible. In this thing, the thing that the Bengals ownership did a great job of, this lease that is lopsided, is they got all their stuff in writing, and everything for the taxpayers was aspirational. And in this LOI, we got a lot of things that's aspirational, where they get things that you must give me money by this time. You must do this by this time. You know, the MOU, you must give us some money by this date. You must do these things by that date. And then everything for the taxpayers is aspirational. We'd like to hire a third party, but come tell us what y'all gonna do in that stadium and we'll work it out down the road. LOI does nothing but kick the can down the road. MOU, kick the can down the road. So I want to make sure we don't make the mistake that was made by our predecessors, where they went aspirational and the Bengals ownership went with contract language that is binding. And that is a concern. My last concern, let me just say, I'm going to be up front. What's in this deal for the taxpayers? Are they going to get the 30% property tax break? Right now, property tax is jumping through the roof. People are crying. I got a guy that said from grandma's house, 47 years, can't hang on to it. We got to have something for the taxpayers. Now, some will say, well, not everybody has a house. My answer to that is, not everybody's going to 9 games of the Bengals. And we're talking about giving them an $800 million deal. Less people are going to the games and own homes that live in Hamilton County. So if we can come with something and figure out financially, we can't be broke with the taxpayers, and all of a sudden we rich, and we can come up with some creative financing for billionaires to become gazillionaires. In Cleveland, the Haslams is putting up 50% on a $1 billion deal. They're putting cash money up. On our side, we're talking, we happy about a $120 million loan. And by the way, the county taxpayers, you still got to put up $60 million for us to get this loan. Haslam's come in and said we putting up half of the $1 billion. So I'm concerned. While it's a hard thing to get out of, because we've said 94%, we're trying to crawl out of it, but I still think that the deal does not present anything. If I'm a taxpayer, what are you presenting to me? I'm still going to be paying sales tax when I go to Kroger's, when I go buy some clothes. I got a property tax that's about to put me out of my house. And now you're coming back with a deal that doesn't even allow for the 30% to be voted on for 7+ years. That's a deal going backwards on the taxpayers, not forward. For 7 years, we won't even be able to vote on 30%. So if we are representing the taxpayers, if they're our clients, you got to come back to the clients and say, here's something for you. And that's where I think we have fallen short. We've tried to make sure, we want to, Bengals, we want to hold your hand and say, we did it. Reds, we want to make sure you okay. But we ain't making sure grandma is okay. We ain't making sure that hardworking man working 3 jobs. Lady just texted me, said, man, I got to work 3 jobs now. And she's middle class, trying to hang on to her and her husband's house. And he done picked up 2 jobs and he got cancer. Where is the deal that we're supposed to get? We represent just the taxpayers. That's the only people we're supposed to represent. That's what we paid to represent. Where is the taxpayers winning in this deal that they can feel? The percentages they can't feel because they still paying. So I think it's some more work to be done. I'm glad we're working, but LOIs and MOUs, I've been saying for years, when we gonna get down to the lease? We knew in 1997 when they signed this, that June of 2025, they gotta let us know what they're gonna do. That's a long time for us to have opportunity to get a new lease. So those are my comments, and it's not just my comments. So you talking about, because all of us are elected, I've already been hired. I've already been hired by the 218,000 people that hired me. I'm fighting for the taxpayers who have told me, what do we get out of this? Because we are struggling. So, Mr. Ludo, some more work to be done, but it's good that the people know what the Bengals have been saying. We was 90% there. I hope not with this. I hope this wasn't what they were talking about in the pay. We was 90% of the deal, not this deal. Not the one they done gave us, the one pager. I hope that's not what they were referring to. And let me lastly say, this is nothing personal. This is the taxpayers that's out here struggling. We just heard it. We got some pictures over here. They struggling. And we've got to consider it all. Unfortunately, as commissioners, we got to deal with everything. And we just can't put a little fund together and say, go over there. If you got low income, you can apply and all. No. We're collecting from everybody, and I want to see the people get a break. So I am concerned that the 30% is not considered. I'm concerned there's no break for the taxpayers directly in their pockets, but there's millions going into the pockets of others. And I hope that we can keep working on those components. Thank you.
Thank you. Administrator, do you have anything further?